And hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about why Russian sanctions don't work as well as people thought they would in the West. First, let me say that I lived in the United States for over 25 years. So I lived in both countries. So I have experience of living in the West and I have experience of living in Russia because I was born in Russia. And I also decided to dress up. Yes, that's me wearing a suit. So first, let me go over the fact that the West is also responsible for what's going on in Ukraine. Let me kind of compare the situation to this. You know, when let's say you go to a bar and you know, like those like bars or nightclubs, they constantly have like fights and everything. And let's say you see these two guys, right, that are ready to fight, you know, and then let's say there's like a third guy who is like egging them on. You know, who's saying, "Come on, bro, you got it. You can kick his ass. Just go for it. Here, let me give you like a baseball bat and make your life easier." So I think that was, the West has been egging Russia and Ukraine into a conflict because it's been the policy to instigate this conflict, and then you can do all kinds of things to, profit from them or whatever. But in any way, while this does not take away from the fact that horrible things are happening, and I've said time and time again that I am against it, it has to be said, to be fair and balanced, that this has been encouraged, because the situation in Ukraine has been very volatile for a long time, and the smallest thing could set it off. But let me also say that when there are sanctions going on, I think people in the West do not understand that the Russian economy is a little bit different, and the people in Russia are just seriously less concerned with money. In the Soviet Union, the people lived with very, very little for like the longest time, so they're used to it. It's not like people can go without a lot of things and are not entirely like concerned. Like you watch these types of street polls, and I've even done a couple of them. Where you ask people on the street what they think about it, and most of the people say they don't care. And that has been the actual truth, is that most people don't really care, and also I think it's, because it's a global world, and a lot of goods and services basically come out from like China and everything. So you can't even cut things off, because the Western sphere of influence has been greatly diminished in the last 50 or so years, ever since China. Everything is like made in China. When you place sanctions, for example, let's say you place sanctions on cars. Well, there's cars coming from China and South Korea. Let's say you place sanctions on smartphones. Well, again, smartphones are coming from China. Let's say you place sanctions on Visa and MasterCard. Russia has its own network. Let's say you place sanctions on food, but Russia has its own food. So it's, while there are things going on and there are consequences of these sanctions, they're not as big as whoever placed them thought they would be. And also, these sanctions hit back those who placed them a lot. And I am not, you would think here I'm sitting here and advocating Russia. I am not. Trust me. For example, also, I will tell you that a lot of Russians are actually happy for the sanctions, because they sanctioned like all kinds of oligarchs and rich people, and who cares if their sanctions and their yacht is taken away. But in general, I feel that another interesting thing, for example, have you noticed lately that all of the things that we've had going on in the world were in reaction to. So, for example, when COVID happened, they stopped all kinds of flights in the world and all those things. Well, COVID didn't stop the flights. It was the government reacting to COVID, which started cutting off flights, started cutting off imports, exports, and that driven up the prices. Well, same thing with this crisis in Ukraine, where the reaction to that crisis has been, again, to limit things like food, energy, hurting their own citizens. I feel that, for example, that the European Union is behaving a lot like the USSR nowadays, where they are creating deficit of products by restricting product flow. And that's what the USSR did, is it created a deficit. Like, for example, there was a shortage of everything in the USSR because the USSR didn't let enough products into the country and controlled the imports and exports. Well, that's what the European Union is doing as well. So you got to look at both of the sides and realize that you can't have a one-sided sanction pretty much almost at all. Any kind of sanction is going to backfire into your own backyard type of a thing, you know? And when you consider the fact that the conflict in Ukraine happened because they were instigating it, so they instigated it for a very long time, trying to bring those two sides into a conflict and then start sanctioning things, then you kind of realize that things are not as they appear. And that's just my personal opinion on this. Thanks for watching.